Hi everyone, today we look at DNA replication. So we'll look at the full process, look at the importance of DNA as well as the importance of DNA replication itself. So let's get to it. So let me write my topic for today, DNA replication. This is one of those topics where, especially because it's in paper 2, you just need to know the process as it is and, get your full marks really. Right, so DNA replication, I'm going to start with the definition, whereby we say, even in its word itself tells us that something is being replicated, and that's the DNA. The DNA is being replicated, it's being repeated. So we'll just say, no problem. It is a process. DNA replication is a process during which a DNA molecule, makes an exact copy of itself. So as I said, with this word DNA replication, we just now understand that DNA, it replicates itself. It makes an exact copy of itself, right? Now, this process is very important in our bodies because we need our DNA to continue replicating itself, repair old and worn out cells. All right, then most importantly, we need to understand that it's a process that takes place, in the interface. Now, if you remember your EP3 abbreviation, interface is our first one there. So that's when it will first happen. Before mitosis and meiosis, DNA must replicate itself so that there can be enough. Now, as I've just said, interface happens, so we'll just say before mitosis or meiosis. Oh, sorry about that. So DNA replication, it's when the DNA molecule will make an exact copy of itself, and this process will take place in the interface, which means before the full mitosis or before that full meiosis. Okay, so this is all, just get your definition and then just know in which phase of your cell cycle does it take place. And then now we will get into the process itself. Process. Okay, now I need to make sure I get all my steps correctly. I will get my picture and also be using it just to explain, right? So let me use this picture to understand DNA replication. So the picture here I want to use just to get what's happening. So this is my DNA molecule. And the reason I'm saying this is a DNA molecule is because I can already see that the nitrogenous base adenine is joining with thymine. So definitely it's a nitrogenous base. And remember, in our previous video, we did say that the original structure, when it's been twisted, is a double helix, and also these double strands. So there are many clues that tell you that this one is a DNA molecule. Okay, so we're going to use this picture to get our DNA replication process done. So with the first process, I need to know that because my DNA molecule is originally twisted, right? So the first thing that must happen is that the double helix must unwind. Okay. Now remember, your DNA molecule is originally in a twisted state. So for DNA to replicate itself, it will first unwind. So that double helix must first unwind, which is what is happening here. Okay. Number two, remember, as it's now unwinding, these nitrogenous bases are being held together by weak hydrogen bonds. So now those weak hydrogen bonds will break, okay, between the nitrogenous bases, right? And then this will cause the two DNA strands to unzip. Okay, so let's look at that again. Originally, your DNA molecule is twisted. So for it to replicate, it must first untwist, or rather unwind. So that double helix will first unwind. And then when it unwinds, the weak hydrogen bonds need to break so that it releases those nitrogenous bases, as we are seeing this happen now. The weak hydrogen bonds are breaking, and then we are seeing the nitrogenous bases, and now it's forming two DNA strands. Okay, we go to the third one, where we say each of those original DNA strands serve as a template, okay, on which its complement is built. So let's look at what that means. Here it unwinds, and then those weak hydrogen bonds, they break, and then you've got now your two DNA strands. Now here, when it forms your two DNA strands, these ones become now the original strands, and they are forming templates, meaning now the next nitrogenous base that must come will know that I must join with that original T or with that original G. So now because it breaks here, these separate, and then they become the templates on which the other nitrogenous bases coming can be able to complement on, right? Then we go to the fourth one. Where exactly are these other nitrogenous bases? Now you'll remember when you were studying the cell that in your nucleoplasm you've got nucleotides. Now we say those free nucleotides build on a DNA strand onto each of the original two DNA strands by attaching to their complementary nitrogenous bases, whereby now if there's an A, it'll be joined by a T, and if there's a C, it'll be joined by a G. So look at that one again. Firstly, your double helix will unwind, and then when it unwinds, the weak hydrogen bonds will break, forming now the two strands. Okay, and then now each strand will become a template. Then there will be free nucleotides that will come and build and combine with these original strands, and then they will attach to their complementary. Okay, the fifth one is that as they attach to their complementary, now here are the free nucleotides coming in. They are now attaching to those templates. Okay, this will result in two identical DNA molecules. Okay, whereby each molecule of an original strand has a new strand. Okay, so let's see something. The reason why now they become identical. If you can check here, it has unwinded. We get CG, or GC, sorry, TA, and so forth. As they break, this one will combine with a C that's going to come. A free nucleotide C will come here. And even this one will also combine with a G. So therefore, still they are identical. As it continues to go on, you see now they're breaking. That A will combine with the T that comes, and then that T will combine with an A. That C will combine with the new G, and then that original G will combine with the new C. The original T combines with an A, the original A combines with the T, so they become now identical. There you go. And then we are being shown right here now the two new identical DNA molecules. Okay, and then the last very important thing to note is that this entire process is controlled by enzymes, our favorite. We love enzymes in natural sciences. They are so powerful, they do a lot for us. Right, so that is the process of DNA replication. So just to go through it again, firstly, with DNA replication, we must know that from the word replication, DNA is being replicated. So we'll just put it in nice English. It is a process during which a DNA molecule makes an exact copy of itself. Okay, and then this process will take place in the interphase, which means before mitosis or before meiosis. Right, and then with the process itself, just remember that, okay, originally my DNA molecule is twisted, so it must first untwist, which means first step, double helix must unwind. Right, after it unwinds, those weak hydrogen bonds must then break between these nitrogenous bases. And then as they break now, it's like your zip. Think about your gin zip. As it breaks, it just forms now the two strands. And those two strands become our template, our originals. Okay, that one was 3. And then because now they are just originals, they waiting for complements, of which now we're going to get free nucleotides that will come and attach to these original strands in that manner, and then forming now two identical. Okay, And then lastly, we just note that the entire process is controlled by enzymes. Okay, let me do now the DNA importance. Okay, because we just said now our DNA needs to replicate itself, and this is how it would do it. And then now let's understand why actually the DNA is important for us, and we'll then look at the replication importance part of it. So in the previous video, I did say that the DNA actually carries the genetic code of your proteins, right? Let's add to that, because I mean this is a very critical point of our cells, so it does a lot for us. I'll just do two extra importance, and then you'll just add to the previous one, right? So firstly, it controls. So your DNA is very important because it controls the functioning of cells. Remember, an individual is made up first of a cell. I mean, that's the building block of life. So we need that DNA there so that it can control how the cell will actually function. And then the next reason why your DNA is important is because it passes. So it passes on hereditary characteristics. So, as we'll be going on, you'll then see that actually the reason why your nose maybe is similar to your uncle's or your aunt's is because there's some genes there that were passed on, and these are actually found there in your DNA. Okay, so let's just do these two and then say, you know what, DNA is important because it controls the functioning of cells, and it also passes on the hereditary characteristics. And then lastly, let's look at now DNA replication importance. Now, why must the DNA replicate? We'll also just look at two. Remember, with DNA replication, it doubles itself, so it makes an exact copy of itself. So that's the first importance is that it will double the genetic material. So it must replicate itself so that it can double the genetic material, so it may be shared between the daughter cells. Okay. Remember, as I said in the first, your DNA is important because it controls the functioning of your cell. So now, if there's a cell, for instance, here's the first cell. I'll just draw here. And your DNA is that, right? So that DNA needs to replicate itself, become more, so that once now there's that DNA replication, or there's another cell, that other cell can also have the same information and also the same amount of information as in the first cell. So then it would double the genetic material so that it may be shared. And then the last thing is that, very important, it forms, DNA replication forms identical. We then refer to it as identical daughter cells, especially during mitosis, because mitosis focuses on your body cells. I mean, for instance, if I got hurt at this space, I need this space to heal, and I mean I need the exact complexion and and everything that is here, I need it to be the same. So for that to happen, all my cells, all my body cells need to be the same, especially for this place. They all need to be the same so that when I do repair, it's still just the same me and it's not a pink or a yellow patch. So that's the reason why your DNA needs to replicate. It's so that it can double that genetic information or that genetic material, and then also it may form identical daughter cells. Let's recap our notes. We are dealing with DNA replication, which means a DNA molecule will make an exact copy of itself. And thus, this process will take place before anything. So that's in the interphase, which means before the mitosis and before the meiosis, right? And then here's your process using this picture for us to understand. Firstly, DNA is in a twisted spiral manner, so it must first untwist, therefore it must first unwind. DNA helix will unwind. Secondly, after it unwinds, the nitrogenous bases will then have to break, so which means that weak hydrogen bond will then break, and then it will unzip, right? As it unzips, these nitrogenous bases now become our original templates, and then there will be free nucleotides that are going to come from the nucleoplasm of your cell and come and actually complement each and every one of them. Okay, come here now. Let's say here they are. They've came in, complemented. As you can see, these two strands are still the same. Okay, and then now there are two of them. Now there are two identical daughter cells, and it starts again. And then obviously there's DNA replication this side again and that side again. But then the entire process is controlled by enzymes, right? And then we look at our DNA importance. We say that our DNA controls the functioning of our cells and also passes hereditary characteristics. I mean, definitely, I think I'm an exact, not really an exact replica, but I've got some things that are similar to my mom's, and I mean, I appreciate that because sometimes I feel like we're twinning. So that's a fun thing about life, being able to just say, actually, this looks like, my grandfather or who and who. All right. And then with DNA replication, it's very important because then it helps to actually double that genetic material, as we've seen even in the picture that now there are two of these daughter cells. So there are two, there's two similar information, or rather the information that's the same. And then it then forms the idea. So these ones are almost the same. So that is the end of our video today. In episode 2 and in this episode, which is episode 3, we were just doing the studying. And then in the next episode, I'll just do a few questions. It's probably gonna be a short video because they don't really ask a lot of questions on this chapter or on this part. But then we I mean that 1 mark, 10 mark, is very important at the end of the day. So I'm excited for that. So, and also please, I mean, you guys are my family now, so just don't forget to do the things. So continue liking, subscribing, and continue just being with us. And also please, comments are much appreciated. Thank you so much.